What is up? Coach Emma here, and welcome back to the Fit Habit Life podcast, where we cut through the noise, talk real health and fitness, sustainable fat loss, and habits that actually work. And today, I've got a super special guest, Adam Badger. He's been a coach for about 11 years, so he's a wealth of knowledge in the industry, and super excited to have him on today. So, introduce yourself, Adam.
Thanks, Emma. I'm Adam Badger. My company is called Badger Strength. Super creative. I've been a trainer now for, like you said, 11 years. Actually, May was 11 years, which is crazy. And I started my own business back in 2018. So I do both in-person coaching, nutrition coaching, online programming. So I kind of do a little bit of everything. And at this point, I've been doing it full time for 11 years. So I've done a lot of conversations, a lot of sessions, a lot of helping people. I've seen pretty much almost every type of client that you could probably think of.
That's awesome. So what got you into coaching?
So to be honest, I started working out when I was probably like 12 years old. It was, pretty normal story. Like, I was a skinny kid, and then I out of nowhere got chubby, and I didn't know why I got chubby. And I didn't like it. So I started exercising and paying attention to what I was eating to try to lose weight. And that's what got me into weightlifting. I was also really into professional wrestling as a kid. So I wanted to be jacked. So that's why I started working out. And all through middle school, high school, I was always, doing something, working out, but I never really got the results I thought I should be getting for the amount that I was doing and the amount of attention I was paying. And it just turns out like I was just doing a lot of the wrong things when it came to nutrition, and I was probably overdoing it with exercise. So I never really built a lot of muscle. So even though I spent all these years working out, I made a lot of the mistakes that most people make, which is under eating, not prioritizing muscle, chronically dieting, not paying attention to like your protein intake. But I had the consistency there. I was at least being consistent with it. So when I got to be like 23, and I had been out of high school for a while, I had worked like a bunch of random jobs and didn't really have like a clear path of like what I wanted to do as like a career. I honestly got a job as a trainer because I thought, oh, well, that would be a cool job to have. I know how to work out. So then I got certified, and I hounded a local gym to hire me. And that's how I started. And then once I got started, I just really, this will probably like lose half the audience because they probably won't resonate with it. But most of my life, I wanted to be a professional wrestler. Like I said, I was obsessed with professional wrestling. So I did independent wrestling like when I was in my late teens, early 20s. And a lot of that is showing up all the time, doing hard stuff for very little return in hopes that it's going to pay off. So I just kind of took that mindset with training, and I was like, okay, I got a job as a trainer. Everyone here has clients, and everyone here is better than me. I'm just going to start showing up as early as possible, taking any client I can get, any class I can get, hounding the sales manager to give me consults. And, within a few months, I was, had a pretty decent schedule where I was making, some money. And then I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I'm putting in work and it's paying off. And then I just kind of stuck with it, and I didn't have any game plan. So I just kept coaching. So yeah, that was a long answer, but that's how I got into coaching. It was like, oh, I thought it would be a cool job to have.
That's awesome. That's really cool. What got you to stay coaching for these past 11 years?
That's a good question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that question. I think at first it was probably just that I was making some money, which again, at the time I was 23 years old. So, to me, at the time what I was making was like, oh my God, I'm doing great. But like now I can never support my family making that money. But at the time I was like, oh my God, this is great. And I made friends with the other trainers, and they became like really close friends of mine. So that's kind of what kept me going at first. Was I just it was hard work, and I was tired a lot, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the trainers I worked with. I enjoyed the job. I liked the identity of being a trainer. I liked that. so that's kind of what made me stuck with it at first. And then by the time I started my own business, I think I had just been doing it for 3.5 years at that point. Actually, no, about 4 years. When I was like 4 years in to being a trainer is when I started my own business. I think at that point I was like, well, this is kind of my craft now. So I guess I should keep doing it. And then when I started my own business, I think I now have been working for myself for 7 years. It's like, oh, well, like there's no kind of turning back now. So that's really what kind of kept me. I would love to say I do enjoy helping people. I do enjoy fitness, but it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm just so passionate about helping every single person. It was more like I'm enjoying the work. I'm providing income and I can see I'm getting better at it. I'm good at it. So I'll keep doing it. And then over time, it's just led to, honestly, pretty much every positive thing in my life has stemmed back from, or breadcrumb back to, being a trainer and working out, right? Like I met my wife at the gym that I was working at. Like we have 2 beautiful kids now. Like I have a house that, one of my clients is a CEO of a bank. So when we were applying for loans and trying to figure out how to get a mortgage, like he was very helpful in that process and pointing us in the right direction. So things made a lot of connections and relationships like that. So that's what's kind of kept me going. But I think a big thing there is the identity. It's like, oh, this is what I am, this is what I do, and I'm proud of it. And I think that obviously, as you know, that can be a good metaphor for people trying to get in shape and lose weight. Is like once you make that identity shift to, I'm a healthy person, I enjoy this identity, it's much easier to stick to it.
Definitely. Well, that's awesome. So do you help your clients start to break down, hey, this is the person that I need to become to consistently like stick with that? Do you talk through that with a lot of your clients?
Yeah, I think in this specific conversation that we're having, I might be coming across as a little too casual about the job, but I do get very deep into the mindset stuff and the self-limiting beliefs with clients. I think sometimes people have to be ready for that conversation, so I kind of like to slowly touch on it as we go. But that's a huge one I talk about with my clients a lot, is you have to start to identify yourself as a healthy and fit person, regardless of what your current fitness level is, regardless of your body weight or body fat percentages at the time. You have to decide, am I going to be a healthy, fit person? And then once you make that decision and you latch onto that identity, now you just start making decisions that a healthy and fit person would make in those situations. And it can be really powerful. It just takes a lot of time, as you know, to really create a new habit or build new habits.
Yeah, it definitely does. And it's a bummer because most of the industry promotes those quick fix stuff.
Yeah.
And so sure, you get a lot of pushback with your clients too, where it's like, well, why is it taking so long? And I'm like, how long have you been overweight? Or how long have you struggled with this thing?
Yeah.
Right?
I find that a lot of people, what happens is they have selective memory of different weight loss attempts that they've had. So they remember, hey, that one time when I was in my 20s, I tried this one diet and I lost, 10 pounds in a month. Or, they remember things like that. So then they're always comparing their current process to that. So I kind of always like to remind people that, well, you have evidence that didn't work, right? Because if it worked, you wouldn't have put back on the 10 pounds or the 20 pounds, whatever it is. And obviously I say it in a much more, polite, gentle way. I find that when clients do come to me though, they are bought into what I'm saying in terms of I think most people are intelligent. Like they don't give themselves enough credit, right? They act like, I don't know what to eat, I don't know how to do this. But I think truthfully, if you had a gun to their head and said, how do you get in shape? They could give you a pretty legit answer. It's just, there's a lot of overwhelm, there's a lot of information, and they're exposed to a lot of transformations, whether it's online or even at their place of work. If they know someone who lost weight faster than them, and so it shifts their focus away from their process and what works for them and their lifestyle, and they start just kind of freaking out, like, well, if this isn't going fast or as fast as I want it to go, then it must mean there's something wrong with me. And that's when they start to go inward and, is it my hormones? Is it my genetics? Is it my age? Is it because I'm perimenopausal? And they start worrying about all that stuff. And it's distracting them from, well, can you look at the last 12 weeks of your life and say, I worked out 3 times a week. I got 8 to 10,000 steps most days. And I stuck to my nutrition plan 85% of the time. And if you can't do that, then you can't really say, oh, I don't know why this isn't working.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of true. With regards to most people kind of know, generally speaking, what they should be doing. I think the mindset part is just, it's people have those self-limiting beliefs too, where that I think really hold them back and kind of keep them stuck. Even if they do know what to do, they tend to revert to old patterns and stuff. So how do you help clients with that sort of?
I like to talk to them about habit change, which I'm sure you're really big on, and the concept of the habit loop, right? So they have an emotional trigger or an environment, some sort of trigger or cue that guides them or pushes them towards an old habit, and then that habit gives them some sort of reward, right? So to give an example, if someone wakes up in the morning and they can pretty much, their morning routine, whether it's the routine that's best for their health or not, is pretty automatic, right? So most people, they wake up, they might hit their snooze a couple times, they brush their teeth, they get dressed, they go downstairs, they start their coffee, they have their coffee, right? And they don't have to think about that. It's a habit. So for them, now if you say, hey, I want to start having protein in the morning instead of just drinking coffee, that can be a really hard habit to start, because now they have to think about it. They have to think about, well, do I have time? Do I need to cook? What food should I eat? How many grams of protein are in this? It's a lot of thought that goes into it. So then they're not able to stick to it. But it's helpful to go, all right, well, you're in that situation. Your trigger or cue is waking up in the morning. The habit is coffee, and the reward you get from it is some sort of security, some sort of energy you get from the coffee. Okay, cool. What if we can now attach protein to that coffee in the morning, so you start to get the same reward as you would get with coffee with the protein, right? It doesn't mean you have to take the coffee out of your diet, but maybe we're gonna have a Greek yogurt with it, or we're gonna have a protein shake and mix it in the coffee and have a protein coffee, whatever it is. And now we start to associate protein with that reward of the coffee. And then you can kind of go, oh, well, this isn't that bad. And it becomes part of your life. And that could be the first habit in the row of habits that starts to lead to healthy change. For some people, though, their habits that they're trying to change are more destructive, right? So it's oh, I'm drinking wine every night. I'm not eating lunch. I'm overindulging on snacks. And then that's maybe is a little bit deeper. Okay, well, we have to talk about your stress management. So for some people, it's really getting clear on identifying what current habits are holding you back from the goal that you want. And instead of just cold turkey stopping them or trying to stack new habits on top of that, which is also difficult, we have to start replacing habits, right? So we have to start looking at those habits, and it's best to start with one at a time, right? If you say, I've got 5 habits that I know are preventing me from losing 50 pounds. Okay, well, yeah, it would be optimal if you changed all of them, but we can't start there. So maybe we're going to start with the one. And it might be, okay, you snack every day around 4 o'clock, and those snacks are chips and cookies or whatever it is, and it's preventing you from seeing your goals. Okay, cool. Now we're going to start setting up your environment a little differently. Maybe we're going to have a protein shake every day at 3 o'clock. To curb your appetite. Maybe we're going to keep those other foods out of the house or out of your office, wherever it is, so that you're not as tempted by them. And maybe we're going to start inserting a new habit at 4 o'clock that gives you that same reward, which is stress relief, comfort, whatever it is. All right. So maybe it's something simple. It doesn't always have to be go for a workout or eat a salad. It can be something that maybe is not optimal, but is not destructive. Right. So instead of snacking on chips, maybe you're going to have a diet soda, right? So, which again, there's nothing wrong with diet soda, but maybe that's going to give you the taste sensation of something sweet, something a little bit more indulgent, but it's got no calories. So little things like that can be really helpful. Obviously, it's very individual, but you have to start by identifying the habits you want to change, and don't just go, all right, I'm going to stop doing that, because then all you're going to be thinking about is that thing, because your mind is going to try to get that loop going in. It's going to try to get that reward again. You have to insert in a new habit that's slightly healthier, but gives you the same reward.
Yes, yeah, it's very similar. Like I do the same thing with my clients, because I think they don't like realize how destructive some of those things. Because it's like, oh, you skip a lunch here and there. It's like, oh, that's not a big deal. But then it's like over time they kind of stack up.
Yeah, and
it's helping them identify that and maybe a better replacement for it.
And I think too is understanding like what actions does that action lead to, right? So skipping lunch, for a lot of especially women, there's guys who do this too, but especially women, they've unfortunately built this relationship with food where they look at hunger as the enemy, food is the enemy. So they, in their brain, it's like, oh, well, if I'm skipping lunch, then I'm eating less, so that must be good for me, which again, totally crazy. Not crazy on the individual, it's just crazy that that's what we've gotten to with as a culture, is that a lot of women think that like, oh, eating food is bad for me, so if I can avoid it, that's probably good. But what you have to think is, okay, if you're avoiding lunch, you're skipping lunch, it's not a priority, that is probably not the issue. The issue is that when you skip lunch, you have massive cravings at 3 o'clock, you're eating Tostitos while you're cooking dinner. Dinner's not as filling because you're trying to make it healthy, but it's kind of bland. And then you're eating more calories at night. And then that drains your willpower. So then by the time the weekend comes, now we're drinking 3 glasses of wine. Now we're overindulging. So you have to understand that relationship between like one action and the preceding actions that follow. So for a lot of people, are surprised when they find out that for most clients I've ever worked with who struggle with losing weight, one of the biggest habits they have is skipping meals. And you wouldn't think that, right? You would think, oh, if you're overweight, it means you probably... But most people who are overweight, in my experience, they're not these... And I mean, like, they're not like gluttonous. They're not waking up every day and eating donuts and going to McDonald's. That's not happening. What's happening is they're not prioritizing food, and then they're emotionally coping with food, and they're eating foods that are very calorie dense. So calorie dense meaning that the food, it doesn't look like a ton of food, but it's packed with calories. It comes with all these hidden calories, right? So they might say, well, I only had I didn't eat all day, and then I just had 2 slices of pizza at dinner, and I picked at the fries, right? But that might be 1,200 calories, like in that one sitting. And that usually triggers them to go, oh, well, I already ate the pizza, so screw it, I'll have the ice cream too. And then now you're at 2,000 calories and you didn't work out that day, and that blows the whole day. So you have to understand that being proactive and prioritizing food, prioritizing protein throughout the day is actually going to cut out a lot of the bad stuff. And now we're in a better place because we're not thinking about what do I have to stop doing. We're thinking about what do I have to start doing. And that's going to naturally weed out the bad habits.
Yeah, there's not a lot of intentionality behind eating.
Yeah.
And so they'll, like you said, they'll be really hungry, and it's like, oh, there's a box of nuts over there. I'll just take a couple handfuls.
Yeah, and that's 500 calories.
Yeah. 500 calories later, they're like, oh, I haven't eaten anything all day. Let's go get some pizza, or I'm going to get 2 margaritas at dinner or something like that.
It happens all the time, and especially foods like that too, like nuts or like acai bowls and things like that. It's like they're not unhealthy foods. It's just that they're not very filling and they're very calorie dense, right? So when someone's snacking on nuts instead of chips, I mean, your intentions are good, but it's calorie wise, fat wise, it's almost the same. If not, honestly, I don't know off the top of my head, but I think sometimes the nuts have even more fat and calories than the chips.
I think they do, because that's what most of their calories come from. I think they do.
Yeah, it's because there's not really any carbs in nuts, so it's all just straight fat, which isn't very filling. So again, and I think sometimes people look at food too much in the lens of healthy or not healthy. They're not looking at it as sometimes if a food is just really palatable, even if it's healthy, you can then easily overeat it, right?
Yes.
More easily than not, right? So that's why I try to steer. That's another big one too, is I try to steer clients away from doing things like, oh, I found this healthy pizza recipe, this healthy mac and cheese recipe. It's like, yeah, it's healthier, but you're probably still going to overeat calories when you're doing it because it's not changing the habit of eating a more balanced meal that you can look at the plate and you can separately see a protein, a carb, a vegetable. Doing that is going to be way simpler than trying to, like you said, it used to be a software engineer. It's like doing some sort of complicated, complex equation to figure out what your macros are on this like breakfast lasagna that you made, instead of just going, oh, I'm going to eat, egg whites, oatmeal, and fruit.
Yeah. And that's, I think people think a meal too has to be some like super fancy thing that they spend a lot of time doing. It's like, no, just have like carb, vegetable, protein, and then boom, it's super easy. And I think that limits a lot of people too.
Yeah, and they tend to they tend to then as soon as they eat healthy or try to eat healthier, they tend to either go to one extreme where they're eating the healthy pizza, which is, again, super, still high calorie, still very palatable, easy to overeat. And then they're wondering why they're not losing weight. Or they go, I'm going to eat healthy, and they eat the most bland, boring versions of food. And they're like, this isn't sustainable. I hate it. And there's a massive, massive gray area in between those two things where you could eat meals that you genuinely enjoy, but they're not like so tasty that like you're going to go back for seconds, and they're meeting your nutritional needs. And I think for most people, like, that's the sweet spot, is finding meals that you do enjoy eating, but when you're done with them, you're done with them. You're not like going back for more. They're not super, super tasty to where, every time you eat it, you're just like, oh my God, this is so good. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but save that for once in a while. Like once in a while, yeah, I like to eat food that tastes really, really good and like enjoy it and not worry about the calories. But I'm allowed to do that, or I have the flexibility to do that, because the rest of my meals that week were pretty normal.
Yeah. And that's, I kind of take the same approach with my clients, like no food's off limits.
Yeah.
Because I realized like I struggled with my relationship to food. Growing up, it was like very restricted in my house.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would like overdo it, put on like probably 30, 40 pounds as a D1 athlete in college, because I was like, oh, I can eat whatever, pint of ice cream every other night, kind of thing. And so once you like allow things in, that's great, but you also have to realize that you can't have them that much of it all the time. And I think that's
100% true, right? It's like, it doesn't mean that any of that stuff has to leave your life. It's just, moderating it and I like to call it just having like a responsible relationship with it, right? We all are on the same page, and we all know that alcohol isn't healthy for you, but not all, but a lot of people, they still find ways to fit that into a healthy lifestyle, right? So it's totally fine. So it's just as okay to admit that, oh yeah, hey, pizza and fries is probably not the healthiest option for me. But that doesn't mean that it's bad and you can never have it. I just think sometimes, I empathize with it, because I've had a bad relationship with food in the past as well, where I would do the same. I would restrict and then massively overeat, or if I was gonna try to lose body fat, I would automatically just start thinking of all the things I can't eat, and that would make me want them more.
Yep.
And it took a year. Like, I'm 34, right? So we're talking, and I started working out when I was 12. So that's a long time. And now I'm at a place where, I can eat a good amount of calories every single day, high carbs, foods that I genuinely like. I feel full. I don't feel depleted. I get good workouts, get good training sessions in, maintain decent body composition, but still have the flexibility to eat, pretty freely a couple times a week. Not like cheat meals, not doing these all out binges, but yeah, like tonight, it's Friday. I'm in New York, so New York has like bipolar weather where it's like either super hot and humid or then rainy, and today's kind of windy and cold. Like if my wife said tonight, I just want to order a pizza, then I would order a pizza and I would eat the pizza and it'd be fine, right? But 10 years ago, I wouldn't have. 10 years ago, I would be like, well, it's not my cheat day. I can't do it today. It's just going to ruin my diet. And so for me, it is very important to help clients cultivate that healthy relationship with food, but it's also helping them understand, like, hey, not every food decision needs to be this emotional roller coaster, right? Like, you don't have to analyze or psychoanalyze every food decision you make. Sometimes we just gotta be responsible and go, hey, like, my lawn needs to be mowed. I gotta go mow it, right? Like, it's kind of like that. It's like, I gotta eat this protein. And let's say you don't really feel like eating it. Is it really that the end of the world that you had to eat a food that wasn't that palatable? But again, it's this weird relationship where a lot of people have just had bad experiences with food, where they were over restrictive or they overindulge. They don't trust themselves around food. They don't trust their decision making around food. So it gets them very anxious. So I have a lot of empathy for that. I understand that.
Yeah, same here. I went from underweight, overweight, overweight, like back and forth a bunch of times. And I went like orthorexic almost tendency. So it was like, if it wasn't Whole Foods and it didn't fit my specific guidelines, I would like not go out to events with people.
Yeah.
Or I would like eat beforehand. And like that was way less healthy for me, even though technically like I'm eating better foods, right? And so I think people don't realize that either, where it's because oftentimes like a lot of the trendy things, right? It's like one end of the spectrum or the other. And people don't realize you can have a balance and you can go and enjoy like Friday night pizza night with your kids. And you can have a glass of wine once a week if you enjoy it, and
or more. You can have more than that. That's yeah, like you could totally have more than that. And I think for a lot of people, it's they have to take some ownership, and it's also, I think it's a good job for coaches to really frame what the experience should be like in the coaching system, right? So if someone comes to me and they're super advanced and they've been doing this a long time and they're like, yeah, I just want to like dial it in and I need the accountability, then that's awesome. But if you're someone who's really struggled to lose, the weight, or you really have trouble getting consistent, or you fell off for a while, you can't follow the same approach that advanced person is going to follow. Even if you've been working out for 20 years on and off, you can't go into it like you're training for a bodybuilding competition. So I think a part of that is understanding that, like, hey, there's a chance during this process you might start to skew towards being too obsessive. And that's okay, because it's normal for humans to overcorrect, right? Like, we find a problem, then we overcorrect it, we swing the other way. That doesn't mean you did anything wrong. But if we're aware that might happen, then when it happens, we could go, oh, hey, all right, you're getting a little too obsessive about this. What I want you to do is, hey, on Saturday, I want you to go out to dinner with your husband. I don't want you to track it. I just want you to order what you want, get the dessert, just enjoy it. I want you to take a break from tracking. And then you can do that within under the guidance of a coach. You can see that nothing terrible happened, right? You didn't lose all your results. You didn't gain 10 pounds overnight. And now you go, oh, okay. So it's kind of like that exposure therapy. But the problem is that people, they're so resistant to hire help with this stuff. So they're just like doing it on their own. And then they have that one night and they flip out. And for some of my clients, the most impactful thing that's happened to them wasn't like weight loss or hitting a PR in the gym. It was, oh, I fell off track and told Adam about it, and he reminded me that it wasn't a big deal. And then I was able to get right back on it the next day. Sometimes that's like the biggest impact you can have on a client, is just reminding them, hey, that wasn't a big deal. It's cool.
Yeah. I've personally, like, that's helped me quite a bit. Shifting my mindset around that. And like I think, like you said, like, people spiral. And so like getting them to realize like it's not a big deal and you just go back to your normal stuff.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. Then they'll finally get out of that kind of all or nothing kind of mindset.
Yeah, and I think an important thing to remember too for clients is that might never fully go away for you, but you'll get better and better at managing it. So
Yeah.
you're gonna have moments along the way. Like, I mean, I still have moments where, I'm I'm eating a meal that I weighed out, and then my son takes a bite of it, and then my daughter takes a bite of it, and then like 3/4 of it is gone. I have no way to track that. And I'm just like, there's a part of me that goes, what the fuck? Like, you just ruined I had this weighed out, and now I don't have, but that lasts 10 seconds. Then I just go about my day. Right. Whereas, 10 years ago before I had kids, I might be like, oh my God, my meal got messed up. Right. So you're still going to have those tendencies, but you just get better and better at managing them. And I think if people can flip their mindset to away from, well, how long is this going to take, to, well, time is my friend, not my enemy. The longer I stick to this and keep practicing it, again, just looking at it like practice, I'm just going to keep getting better and better at it. So it's stripping away those timelines. And yes, I know it's very cool and fun to chase results on a timeline, and you can do that, and there's a time and a place for that. But I mean, you got to really be honest with where you're at and where this falls, what amount of bandwidth you have to put towards this, right? If you have 2 kids, you're working full time, you got a bunch of stuff going on in your life, you probably shouldn't be like, I also need to lose, 8 pounds in 12 weeks. You should probably maybe go, oh man, my eating is not consistent. I'm not staying accountable to my workouts. I just want to fix those problems. And then the side effect of that will be probably you're going to get leaner.
Yeah, like I really try to emphasize with my clients focusing on the process, not like the outcome. Because that tends to be when people spiral too. Like I've noticed, like, oh, you step on the scale after a week of starting working with me and it hasn't moved.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but you started working out. You worked out 2 times this week. That's way better than you've been doing in the past. And so trying to get them to realize, like, focus on the small changes, because like you said, over time, that'll get you to where you want to be.
Yeah. I get it, because as a coach, we get in our own heads too. I mean, I still have those moments too, where if a client isn't seeing the progress they expected and they're getting discouraged about it, I get in my head too, like, oh man, like, am I doing the best thing I can for this client? Like, but 99% of the time it just comes back to, oh, there's things right now that are preventing you from being as consistent as you need to be. But if you zoom out, you could probably find that your consistency is a lot better than it was 2 months ago, 6 months ago, 12 months ago. So we can hash this out, the feelings that you're having around your body and the discouragement. That's totally cool. You're allowed to have those feelings, but understand that you are moving in the right direction. I had one client who was with me for, I think it was like 18 months, right? And she had pretty big weight loss goals. And she had a lot of underlying health issues. She was a mom of 2. She was busy, but she just knew, like, I got to get this under control. And for the first, I don't know, Emma, probably like 8 months, she like barely lost any weight.
Wow.
Right? And it wasn't because she wasn't trying. It's just because it was taking a lot of time to really hone in on these habits. There wasn't, a lot, the accuracy of the tracking wasn't where it needed to be. There was weeks of missed workouts. There was underreporting. There was, maybe stressors in her life that she wasn't fully realizing how much they were affecting her. But then the last, whatever it was, let's say, maybe it was more like 13 or 14 months. But we went like a big stretch of time where there was basically almost no weight loss. And then over the last stretch of time we were together, she lost like 40 pounds. Right. So, wow. Yeah. So it was like it's 6 or 8 months of like maybe some small drops. So maybe like an overall weight loss of 10 pounds over 6 months, but then like a 30, 40 pound weight loss over the course of the next 8 months, because she got everything in check. She got the habits. It became automatic, and then her body started responding. And I'm not saying that that's the norm. That was a little bit of a longer time frame. But I've also had clients who, they're like, oh my God, I made that one change you told me to make, and I dropped like 4 pounds in the last couple of weeks. So like, you gotta understand that your body's gonna respond at the rate it's gonna respond. But if you could just focus on checking the boxes every single day and staying accountable and staying with it, it will pay off. Because what's the other option? Like, you can either improve and get better, or you're going to choose to stop altogether. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you can stop obsessing about it, but you're just going to stop working out. You're going to stop trying to eat healthy. Like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't see the point in that, right? Think about with career change. If you don't like your job, you switch jobs, you switch careers. You don't go, oh, I'll just be homeless, right? Like, right? You figure out a different system, but you don't just go, all right, well, I'm just going to stop working altogether and I'm just going to be homeless and I don't even care anymore. Like, that very rarely, if ever, happens.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I don't think people put it into perspective like that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, 100%.
Right? Because it's like, okay, you got a mortgage, you got kids, you can't just stop working. Same with your body. Like, you have a body. Like, you can't just stop trying. Like, if you care, like, keep trying and keep making small changes. Because otherwise, you're just gonna stay the same or get worse.
Yeah, well, that is a big one that people forget. Is that you don't stay the same. Like, if you stop working out and stop taking care of yourself, you don't stay the same. You do get worse. So it really is only you're improving, you're getting worse, right? Like if you,
that's actually kind of true.
Well, yeah, but it sucks, but it like, you don't just go, oh, well, I have high blood pressure, I'm pre-diabetic, and I want to lose 60 pounds, and I'm going to stop trying, and you just stay in that. You just stay that way. No, that all gets worse. Your blood pressure gets worse. Your weight gets worse. But people will only look at one thing, right? They'll be like, oh, well, I didn't gain any weight this year. Okay, cool. That's fine. But like, that doesn't mean that your health didn't get worse because you weren't working out. Like, you got weaker. You got more out of shape over the last year if you weren't doing anything. So if you're working out, you can go through periods of maintenance where you're kind of maintaining where you're at. Strength and performance wise and all that's weight wise, and that's totally fine. Actually, that's actually a good thing, like that you need those periods of time. But if you stop doing it, you're not maintaining, right? It's like, let's say it takes a 9 out of 10 effort to improve, and it takes a 5 to 7 out of 10 effort to maintain. If you're putting in a 3 effort, you're getting worse. You're not maintaining. You're just like, everything's getting worse.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, and that's a great way to end this.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to end it on a downer. I want people to understand that, like, if you're just doing stuff, like I said, back to the beginning of our conversation, for the first multiple years of my, me working out, I was not doing things perfectly, but I wasn't getting worse because I was at least consistent. Right? I was consistently going and working out. I might not have been doing the best workouts or the right workouts or had perfect form. I wasn't eating enough protein. I wasn't eating enough calories. I would have periods of fuck it where I just overindulged on stuff. I did all that stuff wrong for many years, but I kept moving the needle forward. It just wasn't at the pace I would have wanted, but it's because I just was consistent.
Yeah, actually, same here. My diet was all over the place, but I was always consistent with my exercise. So even if I was getting fatter, I was improving my cardiovascular endurance, or I was getting stronger or something.
And that's a cool thing about exercise too. If you're staying physically active, it might not change your body composition if your diet's not in check, but you're getting like 80% of the health benefits. So even if you're like super stubborn and you're like, I don't want to change my eating at all, I just want to eat whatever I want whenever I want, but I'm going to work out 3 or 4 times a week, you might not lose any weight, but you're at least going to be healthier.
Yep. Yeah. And that's a great way to
that's a little bit more positive.
So on that note, thank you so much for being on this podcast, Adam. I really appreciate having you on and having this great conversation. So where can our listeners find you?
Badger Strength on Instagram is probably the best place to go. And then also I have a podcast called Talk and Fit with Adam Badger, and that's on Spotify and Apple. And both of those places have different links to free resources. And then also my website, badgerstrength.com, if you want to check out some more free resources.
Awesome. I'll link those in the show notes. And if this resonated with you, please share it. Rate the show, subscribe. I want to get this in front of more people to just help more people on their health and fitness journey. So I'd really appreciate it. So thank you all for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks, Emma.